First stop, we're turning into Brewston Mills, West Virginia to go to the Heasley farm. There is the Brewston Dam. Pizza Pro. Big Sandy Brews. Turn right here. 3 miles will be at 2988 Compressor Station Road. Brewston Mills Town Hall. Fire Department. Ambulance Building. 1 mile from the Heasley Homestead Maple. Be Keith and wife Kelly with maple products since 2015. 0.7 miles. And close, we're almost there.
988 Compressor Station Road on the right.
The farm crawl. Here we are, Heasley Homestead. Going from tree to tree. Cars ahead. We have arrived. There's a tree stand. The Heasley Homestead.
Products inside for y'all.
Check inside. The next tour is starting soon.
There's the Garbart.
Hi. Going to try to get to as many as we can. We have maple products, maple cotton candy, maple syrup, different quantities of maple syrup. Pricing on the maple syrup.
Science fair project. I thought about that.
There's tons of science. Keith he's a mad scientist.
Oh, I know.
The tubing and the vacuum and all that stuff.
Put it on toast or
The sugar.
bake with it or put it in your coffee.
I'm gonna get some of that candy.
The sugar for. So you can put it on toast, you can put it in your coffee, you can bake with it, put it on ice cream, sweet potatoes, ice cream.
They're giving tours. There's about 3 different groups, they said. And tours start as other tours end. First stop on the farm crawl. And is this the first year that you've done it?
It's my first year, so I'm excited.
I am too.
Some people membrane, you put it under pressure and the water goes through and the contaminants stay on the other side of the membrane. Most people use the purified water we drink or use it for whatever. That's our waste product, right? So we keep the contaminants, which in this case is sugar, on one side of the membrane on the food. So it goes through that, goes up to the middle size tank on top, goes back to the URL, goes to the concentrator tank. Like I said, it takes out well over half the water. Can't use it for washing, cleaning. So theoretically, to be pure maple syrup, you can't put anything back in. You shouldn't be putting your well water back in. So you get some batch a little heavy.
Here's the beginning of the tour.
Farm crawl thing this week. Awesome. I love the farm crawl. I think it's a great idea. Put houses in the spring. We have Maple Days, but at the end of February, and we do one in March. The March sometimes it might be done, but it can be wicked cold. So, all right, we'll walk this way. My name's Kevin. I'm a friend of Keith and Kelly's. Known these guys for a long time. They recruit me when they need a little bit of help. Come here in the wintertime, I help them tap. I help Keith in the woods. There's always something to do here. I love coming up here and helping these guys out. Keith owns about 60 acres of woods, about 30 acres on this side of the street, about 30 acres on that side of the street. Not enough for the 1,500 taps that he has. So he has leased property from his neighbors. This property here is leased. There's another property there that's leased. And then across the road, there's about 50 acres towards Brewston Mills that we tap. We also have another piece of property about 3 miles up the road. We call that the Jeffries property. So everything down here, we pump up to our sugar shack. But the Jeffries property, that we have to put in totes and then drive down here. What we have on this property is predominantly red maples and silver maples. Now we can tap anything, any kind of maple tree. Doesn't necessarily matter. Taste is the same. The sugar maples do have a higher concentration of sugar. We don't have that many down here. The Jeffries property does have more. Jeffries property is an older forest, so it has a bigger canopy. the more sugar content that you have as well. The red maples here, important to us for making maple syrup is the sap going up and down the tree, which happens in the late winter, early spring, right? So a maple tree has air pockets in its cell, freezes in the wintertime. It creates a negative pressure in the tree and creates the sap to go up. Then whenever it gets cold and it freezes, it's locked into the tree. When the sun comes out, melts the tree, sap goes back down. So that up and down is what allows us to collect the sap. We have about 1,500 taps that we do. Everything is put in through a tubing system, which I can show you down here. The thing you will see is this black line here. Pump everything up to the sugar shack. So down in the woods, the bottom of the hills, we have more of those white totes you saw up there. So everything goes down into there. When they fill up, take a pump them up. So we have 3 pump lines that come up to our sugar shack.
I stick with you. I see that. They ask a lot of questions. Holy cow, this is a big group. We need to put up a light here.
We come out here, it's about the 1st of January. We have a tapping party, about 4 or 5 of us, spend the day, and we have a drill and a hammer. Right? So what we want to do is drill a hole in the tree, drill about a 2-inch hole in the tree. And if you look at this tree here, you can see these are some of our old tap holes. So what we have is our tap right here, this little guy. So it's got water in here. So we just hammer this tap right into the tree. And with our tubing system, what's important to us is we get an airtight seal, because what we want to create a vacuum, right? We want a cycle. So if we would just put a tap in the tree and just let gravity do it, we can increase our production by about 50% by sucking out the sap. Things for us, we know whenever the tree's starting to produce, because we have like this little gizmo right here, which is electronic, but we have gauges, vacuum gauge at the top of the line. So we know when that vacuum level goes up, that our trees are producing.
Do the
So
lines freeze?
they do freeze, absolutely, yeah, because mostly what's in that is water, right? Because we only have about 1% sugar content, so it definitely freezes. So again, we're going to run that balance where in the wintertime we don't want a super hard freeze, all right? We want it to be 25 degrees or so, just enough for the tree to freeze, sap to freeze in the tree, and then the sun comes out during the day to defrost that. We want to make sure that guy can flow. Another thing too with our pump lines, we got to be very careful, is that we have water doesn't sit in there, right? No dips in the line, because if we pump it up and then we flush it out too, so we run it through our RO, we have lots of fresh water, so we're always flushing that line out. We don't want it to freeze. We put it in the tree, we have that gauge on there, so again we can tell that our trees are producing. Another thing we can do is if this tree is say at 22 negative pressure and that tree over there is 12, we have a leak, right? So that helps us also identify that we have a leak somewhere in the line. Deer chew on these things, squirrels chew on them, trees fall on them, so it's a constant working the lines. Now we don't necessarily have to walk the lines every day. We do walk the top of the lines pretty much every day. When you're in maple season, you do a lot of walking for sure. Definitely obviously at the bottom too, because our tanks are down there and we have a gasoline powered pump that we don't leave in the woods. And checking your pressures, how much the trees are producing, and then we can say, okay, that tank is so big, the trees can produce so much sap, we know that we need to pump at this certain time. Most of the time our trees aren't producing till 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'll run till it starts to freeze, right, which could be 9-10 o'clock at night. So that line will run till 10 o'clock. So you might have to be down there at 11 o'clock to pump stuff up here. It's a balance, right, of knowing when the trees are running, how long they're going to run, and getting sap up here. Sap is a lot like milk, right? It can sit in the tank if it's not going to be too warm for a couple of days. If you have a low producing day, maybe only produce for an hour and the tank's only half full, it's like, it's not worth pumping it up, I'll wait till tomorrow. It's fine, it can sit in the tank. But if it's going to get warm, and a lot of times in springs it does get warm, can't let the stuff in the tank, so we've got to get it up, get it out.
What happens to it?
It goes bad, and we treat it like milk. So it can sit out for a day. And again, it's winter time, so it's not like it's,
Right.
But if it gets to 45 degrees, it'll go bad. Our season is about 6-8 weeks. We'll start producing in January, you know, when the days are right. Towards March, when the trees really wake up and the tree starts to bud, the sap's no good. Trees create too many proteins in there and it tastes awful. Early in the season, the tree's very dormant, but we're still getting the sap going up and down the tree. The maple in there, very light maple syrup at that point in time. And as the season goes on, as the tree's starting to wake up, it's creating more proteins and enzymes, and that's where you get the darker syrup. So the later stuff is the early season stuff. If you like that, I'm not a sweet guy, but I do like the maple flavor. So I'll go with the darker stuff, just put a little bit on there. And I do like the maple sugar. I put that in my coffee, and we do use that a lot. Tubing stays up obviously all year round. We flush it out at the end of the season, and then we flush it at the beginning of the season, and we flush it just with a light Clorox solution, just to get any nasty stuff that's in the lines out. You can see our lines, there's no black nasty stuff in there, and that's because we're flushing those lines out. Bacteria and everything that grows in there, we're not overly concerned with it. It's not going to hurt us because we're going to boil the crap out of it. Too worried about it, but what it does is it slows down our sap, keep our stuff as clean as possible. And sometimes when you get towards early part of spring when it gets warm, that can be tough. You get a 50-60 degree day, which a lot of times we do get. You can get some nasty bacteria building up in the lines, and we try to flush it out, try to keep our tanks clean. And that vacuum is very, very important to us. So we're always checking that vacuum. Again, we'll know when our tree's producing, we'll know how much the tree's producing, and we can check for leaks. That's really what that tubing system does to it. And we don't have to run around the woods with a bucket. And keep a nice clean system because of the tubings. You've got buckets, I don't care what you do. Even in the spring, you're going to have bugs and things are going to get into it. So this keeps everything nice and clean. Get it up to our sugar shack.
Do you have to cycle through the trees, like give some trees a break and then tap
We're not pulling that much out of the tree, and the tree really doesn't care. Now, if we would put 6 taps in the tree, yes, I think that would be a problem. Not pulling that much out, so we're not too worried about it. Our concern with though is the hole, and we try to keep a pattern whenever we're drilling a tree. And I can show you inside. We have a piece of tap wood in there, so we drill that hole. The tree creates kind of a scar tissue about this big and about a little bit wider than the hole itself, and it won't produce out of that area. So we've got to stay away from that. So we want to stay over a couple inches and up about 6 inches. So it's important to us when we go over to a tree that we try to find the old tap hole, and we try the best we can to do a pattern. We run into problems with that. Number one, some trees like that one, we can see from here how they really heal up. So you can see it sometimes. I've been on the trees where you get really heavy bark, you can't find them. When we did Jeffrey's this past year, it snowed about 6 inches, and it was blowing snow, and it was right on the side of the tree that we were tapping into, and it was covered with snow and ice, and we couldn't find. So we just said, okay, our procedure is we try to do the downside of the tree, so you always know where you're on the downhill side, and then kind of where that tap is. You can kind of take the hose and kind of go, oh, it should be right around here somewhere. Again, trying to stay out of that old hole. So we don't want to just randomly just poke holes in the tree. And the theory is, as you work your way around the tree, by the time you come back around, the tree's grown and big enough that you can tap it again. Try not to tap anything smaller than like a foot in diameter, and anything more that you can hug and can't reach your fingers, we can put 2. This property, we try to stay away from that. Our canopy is small, sugar content's already pretty small, so we try not to take a whole lot out of these trees. But the Jeffrey's property has a bigger canopy and they're bigger trees, more mature forest. Up there, most of ours have 2 taps on them. Try to get about 25 taps on a line. That's about the volume that we can pull out of the line. We can go up to the sugar shack and show you how we finish it up. Now we get back up here. So we have 3 small lines. This day will fill it. You're about 1% all the sugar content.
No.
You're going to get to about 66%. We're going to take a lot of water. And those efficient ways to do that, just remember our osmosis system, which is that is high pressure water filter. Right, it has a membrane in there that's very fine, and it only lets water molecules. Most people have in their house, maybe you guys do. We don't want water. Right? We want the sugar, right? So, which is mostly what people would throw away, right? That's sugar shack. So sending it through there and start at 1%. First time we run it through, it goes up that tank, we try to get down to about 7%. Run it through again, try to get to about 15%. And now we've taken out about 80% of it. Now we just need to finish it up. That we boil off. Do our evaporate. That's how we finish it. It's oil fire. Just like a furnace in your house. There's a big burner in here. Shoots flame all the way for 4 hours.
Well, now they
Over here, once we come out of our last tank up there, I gave about 15%. It's cold, right? It's cold in here. It's winter time, only 40 degrees or so. First thing we try to do is we get it through our here at the top of the tank there. You'll see tubes go through. Goes through that preheater. Try to get that up to 180 degrees or so at that point. Comes out of our preheater, comes into here. There's a little float valve in there. It goes into our first pan, and it's fluted. So we have lots of surface area for our sack to come in contact with, blow it off very, very fast. So when this thing's running, in here is completely filled with steam. And those are our steam stacks, so it's sucking out steam. We're trying to get it out as fast as possible. Coming in here, working through, it's fluted, it's going very fast, getting close to the syrup. It's out in here, just our levels to make sure we get pretty close. And then we go into our finishing pan, and if you look in here, it's not fluid, it's a flat bottom. You want to be able to control how fast it's boiling, because if it gets to 70%, it burns. So you burn that pan, you can't get it out. I mean, it's terrible. So we're watching it very closely. We're watching our temperatures, temperature gauges. As we get closer, we'll boil about 7.5 degrees above boiling at that specific day. So we're watching that temperature. Watching it very, very closely. We also have hydrometers that we're checking it, trying to make our sugar content where we want it to be. It's constantly flowing through here. So our finished product comes out. Take a 5-gallon bucket. Usually we're running, put that about a drizzle, and it'll just flow. Once you get it set, we have a controlled amount of sugar content sack coming in, so it'll just flow right through. So once we get it into our bucket, it'll thaw down to sit here on the floor, right? We just throw a lid on it. It's late, right? It's 11, 12 o'clock at night. We've had it for the day. So we'll set it here. Keith has this pretty much set up. It's a one-man band. He can run this for the most part by himself. Get some help to come in to help a bottle, have some guy help him bring stuff down from the other property. So he does have a little bit of help, but he can pretty much run it by himself. Once we get into the buckets, so again, the day's not producing, then we'll go in here and he'll bottle it, and I can show you how we do that in there.
Nice in here.
Yeah, it feels nice in here too. So again, we'll have sometimes 25-gallon buckets of syrup sitting out there on the floor, and then we need to bottle it. All right. Yeah. So we get it in here. We got to heat it back up. We try to get the viscosity down a little bit and to heat it up. Because when it comes out of there are some impurities in there we want to try to get out. I mean, it tastes really good when it comes out of there too. Maybe have a glass bottle, you hold it up, and you get some sediment in there. We try to get that stuff out. So what we do is we send it through a high-pressure filter, which is this little guy over here. It has membranes in there. We heat the syrup up to about 180, 185 degrees. Be a little bit careful how many times we heat it, because every time you heat it, it gets different. A lot of people like the lighter stuff. I'm not a fan of the lighter stuff because it doesn't have as much flavor in it. I don't like a lot of the sugar. I prefer the darker. So the first thing we do is in here, we push it through our filter. It gets all that stuff out that you don't want. And then it simply goes into our bottler, which is behind these guys. It's 185 degrees in there. A simple tap on it, hold the bottle up, the syrup out, goes into our bottle. We put this cap on it upside down. Too worried about bacteria and that's mostly sugar. Nothing's really going to grow in it. And you can sit the syrup out on the counter, and it'll grow a little stuff on the top. You can scrape it off, heat it up, and it'll be fine. So we're not like can of tomatoes that you can and it goes bad. This stuff, it doesn't really go bad. It is best obviously to throw it in the refrigerator. We throw ours in the freezer most of the time just to kind of keep it. But
how long can you keep it?
Oh, very long time. Like sugar, right? It can sit out and it's not gonna go bad. Right behind you, but get out of tap wood. These little tap holes. The tree creates like kind of scar tissue in here, and it won't produce in any of these areas. So again, we want to be over and up.
How do you make the maple cream?
You got to get it to a consistency to whip it.
Okay.
So it's not quite sugar yet, like complete like brand new shirt, but it's close. Put it in here and it just folds it and whips it, whips it and whips it. And whips it. Yeah, and you gotta watch the temperature very, very closely because again, you don't want it to burn, and then if it gets too cold, then it won't fold. So it's gotta be a specific temperature.
Okay. Amazing stuff, though.
The candies, started doing the infusion, so we do have some of that stuff here. Nice stuff out there to taste test. Stuff out there, again, you can see, especially the glass bottles, the light coming through, you can see the lights and the darks, and you can taste test to see which one you like the best. Any questions? Thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Awesome to have you up here.
It's a beautiful facility. You guys keep it very clean. Yes.
Keith works very hard. He's keeping the place clean.
I
Yeah.
was very impressed. Very impressed.
It might not be work. The maple will not floss, so we have to mix it with cane sugar. Look at that. You'll see in the thing you have whites, and then you also have the maples. Mix it.
Very interesting. Very informative. You're very good.
Oh, thank you. So when it comes in here, this is our raw sap. So as we pull that water out, our tank doesn't need to be as big. Right. So again, we're taking about 80% of the water out before it even gets into here. So raw sap.
And how do you get the 80% of water out?
Reverse osmosis. Yeah. Like I say, in there is a membrane. It goes through very high pressure, and it only lets water molecules through. This thing only runs a couple hours a day. You get in these big facilities, they never shut off. Last year we did about 450 gallons. Yeah, this is just a hobby for Keith. He's a mining engineer. He was a professor at WVU for many years. Retired from WVU. Now he does consulting work for all kinds of mines. So I'm sorry, Ed. I'm on camera. Keith's a mining engineer by trade, so he does a lot of consulting work throughout the country. Just a hobby for him. But he also writes a lot of papers. Gets grants to study, especially the tubing systems, to know the vacuum, right? That I talked about before. And if you have how much slope is the proper slope, how many taps you can put on there, how much sap goes in the lines, what's the size of the line. I mean, he's doing tons and tons of work to help people design their work.
In their store, which is put on during the farm crawl, they have hoodies, products. Don't forget the cotton candy, maple cotton candy. This is what we're going to purchase.
And lasts for like a month on here. But it's better to store. Syrup only when they open. $40.75.
And we're done here. We've acquired some goodies. A beautiful homestead. And we're off to the next location. We've got sandwiches from inside Haynes' store and some pasta salads, chips, and now we're getting some coconut cake for dessert. Sitting at the picnic tables at Brewston by the Brewston Dam, and we've acquired a picnic from the Haynes Market. And we're right across from paddles where you can rent paddle canoes to do the Brewston Dam. Lunch is over and we're leaving the Brewston Dam. Water's really low. People are enjoying it. On top, rafts, canoes. Getting ready for some water fun. Very low water. I've never seen it like that. It's been very hot and dry.